What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics. Up next, we've got a video I have been looking forward to making for a little while now. This is my top 24 books in my collection, which is my keeper list, my PC list. And I think one of the things that's going to be really fun about this video is I've got a new number one right here in this box. Just came in, haven't opened it yet. So excited to open this book, check it out, and go over all of my current keeper list. All right, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So what we're doing here is I've got my keeper list, what some people might call their PC. I've talked about this before in the past. Basically, I buy and sell comics as well, but I collect comics too. And the way that I've controlled that, where I kind of separate out, where I decide which books I'm going to keep versus which books I'm going to sell, is what I call my keeper list, or what some people might call their PC. I originally got the idea from ETA Nick, where he had his 500 keepers when he was closing out his channel. And so for me, it started off at 50. That's what I had. And then as I've kind of upgraded and got some more expensive books and that kind of thing, I've trimmed it down where I'm keeping less books, but they tend to be bigger books. And so it had gotten down to 20, but recently I've picked up a number of new books that I've wanted to put on this list. And so it's inched its way back up to 24. And so it's sitting at 24 right now. And so what we're going to be doing in this video is we're going to be going over those 24. It's going to be in order from what I have as the least expensive to most expensive. It's not necessarily all of the most expensive books I own, but it's the ones that are on my keeper list, that PC, because it's not always the most expensive ones that I want to keep. There are some that just mean a lot more, or I like the covers a lot more, or the content, or the what key it is, that kind of thing. But like I said, I think one of the most interesting things that's part of this is the new number one. It's one I just recently picked up. Box just came in. We're going to open this at the end of this video when we get up to that number one. So I'm excited to get into these. Let's start checking out these books. Now, the first book here just missed being added this year. I picked this one up on December 30th of 2022. And this is one of those that is very difficult to price. It is on the, it's the bottom of my list. So meaning the least valuable book, in my opinion, on this list, but also one of my favorite books on this list, one of the most important books to me, and that is WoW Comics number 29. Now, the reason that this book is so important is because you can see it's got this gold label. It is an Okajima pedigree book. And if you're not familiar with the Okajima pedigree, this was a woman that was in one of the Japanese internment camps in the US during World War II. And she also happened to be a comic collector. And she would go buy, I think it was a few comics per week generally. And this is the really important thing about this book, is that this is from 1944. So this is one of the books that she collected while she was actually in that camp. Her collection continued past that up into the early 50s. And those books are still in demand, but the ones while she is in the camp are the hardest to come by, the most rare, and you just never see them come up for sale. Very, very rarely. And there's always a lot of demand when they do. I picked this one up on Instagram from Prince of Cheese. So, make sure you go check him out if you're ever looking for some comic books. This was in one of the really old labels, and I got it switched into recased into this, the cool new gold label. And one of the other things, they're almost always really nice page quality. Like you can see, this is a 6.0 white pages. It actually presents extremely well. It could probably press higher, but this is the type of book where the grade doesn't really determine the value that much. It's a lot more about the history of the book. There are some pressable defects. There's also there's this little hole kind of thing on the back. It looks like maybe there was a sticker there or something. But there's lots of pressable defects on this book. It could improve, but I've just decided I'm not going to press this book. So yeah, this is one of the most important books to me. I've had an Okajima pedigree in the past. I'd been trying to get one from that period during World War II, and this opportunity came up on Instagram, and I was glad to be able to pick it up. So this is number 24, but also very, very high on that actual keeper list. It would take a lot for me to get rid of that. Now, number 23, actually just bought this one. Bought it on December 4th of this year. I showed it just in a recent video. This is Dynamic Comics number 11. And this is an amazing Gus Rica cover. Let's see there. Yep, Gus Rica cover. This is the same artist that did like Punch Comics number 12. I believe he did Punch Comics number 9, also Dynamic Comics number 8, a bunch of very, very in demand, but also pretty scarce books from the Golden Age. I mean, these are pretty early, especially for this type of content where it's crime, but it has that horror feel to it, because this is 1944, but it's a 1.5, but just a great presenting 1.5. I mean, it's got some tanning and that kind of stuff over here, and the little chip up here, little chip down in this corner here. But overall, a really nice complete image. You know, there's the back cover, you know, some tanning and whatever. I mean, it's a 1.5. I mean, what do you want? But really nice complete image, nice colors, everything, and just such a cool cover. I mean, you've got these people in these test tubes, this one person getting melted by this crazy doctor on the cover. And, you know, just some of the depictions of the people, they look very similar to the characters that are on the front of Punch Comics number 12. So just, I really, really like this book. Ever since I first saw this cover, I was like, I need to get a copy of it. And it's one of those that doesn't come up very often. And the opportunity came up, picked it up, and really happy to add this one to the keeper list. All right. Now, number 22. This is another one that I picked up very recently. Not as recent as that one. I picked this one up on November 16th of this year. And this is Wonder Comics number 15. I talked about this one in that video, a recent unboxing video, that this is my second favorite Alex Schomburg airbrush cover. So this is Alex Schomburg cover. You can see that up there, Alex Schomburg cover, and a 5.0, a very, very nice presenting 5.0. I've taken a little bit closer look at it since I did that video, because I've wondered if I could maybe get it bumped to a higher grade. There are a few things that concern me in terms of like some creases, because I mean, it just, from about this distance, it looks amazing. I mean, it does not look like a 5.0 at all. Just an incredible cover, and just really deep colors and everything. But there are a few like light creases that are on the cover that I'm just worried might actually hold it back there. It might still be worth a resubmission attempt, because I don't think there's any way it could get below a 5. But if it gets a little bump, that would be cool. So definitely a book that I'm considering trying to, you know, resubmit and see if I get a bump on it. But for me, for Alex Schomburg, who really is probably, I would say, my favorite cover artist from the Golden Age, this is my second favorite airbrush cover from him. So Wonder Comics 15, book I have tried to pick up for many years, like almost as long as I've been back into comics. I've been trying to pick up a copy of this book, and it wasn't the right auction ever. And I missed one that was I talked about this in another video. I missed one that I really should have bid more on, but yeah, very, very happy with this, because such a nice looking copy. All right. Now, number 21. This book is just insane. I've talked about this one a few times in the past. This is Baffling Mysteries number 22. This is a Golden Age pre-code horror book in a 9.6. This is from Ace Periodicals. Those books from Ace generally are not in high grade anyway. You usually are finding those in very low grade. And so a 9.6 is insane. I picked this one up off of Instagram as well. I got this one late last year, like November of 2022. And I mean, it's just wild. 9.6. The other really cool thing about this one is that not only is this the top of census book, it is the top of every single book in this run. There is one other 9.6 from like the Northford pedigree. I think that's the one it's from. And this one. So there are 2 9.6s in all of the Baffling Mysteries run, at least the last time I checked, maybe like 3 or 4 months ago. And so not only top of census, but top of run. So I think that is a pretty cool fact, you know, thing about this one. And yeah, just incredible colors. I mean, just insane colors on this book. And another one of those that really, really difficult to value because there's nothing even close to it. Like I said, being the top of the entire run. I mean, I'm not even sure really how to value it. It might be technically higher on the list with value, but this is just where I have it sitting right now. But yeah, Baffling Mysteries number 22. Just an insanely high grade Golden Age book. All right. Another one that I picked up very recently. This is number 20 on the list. This is Teenage Romances number 32. This is a Matt Baker cover. This is one of, I've talked about this because it was a very recent video that I picked this one up. This is one of like the Matt Baker covers, at least for romance. Other ones that are real big for him are like Seven Seas 4, Phantom Lady 17, Cinderella Love 25. But this is another one. And it's got that classic face like of the woman that he draws on that cover. It's what Matt Baker is known for. It's the good girl art type covers. And with the romance books, this is just one of those books that just, it has the right story to it. Basically, it's this guy is going to be, he says he's going to be leaving, and basically is she going to stay committed to him, and she's telling him that she is not. So an interesting cover story, but also just an incredible depiction on the cover. I really like this book. This is one of the ones that I was torn on if it's going to be on the keeper list or not. That's why I'm up at like 24 books right now. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to cut anything else at this point, but yeah, Teenage Romances number 32, 40. Amazing Matt Baker cover. All right, now the next one here. This is a book that I have upgraded multiple times. It's one of my favorite covers from the Golden Age, and I keep trying to find a higher and higher grade copy. This is number 19. This is Archie number 50 and a 6.5. This is that classic good girl art Betty cover. And so 6.5 is a very tough grade for this book. This book starts to get, I mean, it's already expensive in all grades. I mean, it's pretty almost near impossible to get it under $1,000, even in low grades. But then when you start getting up into the mid grades, like a 5 and a 6 and, that kind of thing, and they get exponentially more expensive. But this is the highest grade copy I've ever owned. I've owned, I think maybe like a 1.5, a 3, a 3.5, a 4, a 5.5, and then this one. And so I keep upgrading it, trying to get a nicer and nicer copy. And this is the best one that I have so far. So Archie number 50, just that classic Bob Montana cover and just amazing Betty cover. So I think this is one of the top Archie covers of all time. And for the good girl art type covers, it's definitely near the top of that list. All right, so the next one here, this is number 18. This is actually currently the only LB Cole book that's on my keeper list. And I talk about LB Cole all the time. So I was honestly, when I was looking back through, I was a little surprised. This is the only LB Cole book I have on here, but it is one of my favorite LB Cole covers. Plus it is one of my favorite pedigrees. So this is Catman Comics number 28. It is a 4.5. You can see it's got that gold label because this is the Cosmic Airplane pedigree. And the Cosmic Airplane pedigree, there's a lot of different stories about how it might have gone, but generally people think that he was a teacher, like an art teacher of some sort. And because there's all kinds of little drawings and notes and depictions typically in the margins of these books. And at some point he passed away. His sister, I believe, went to the comic shop that was in the area, which was called the Cosmic Airplane, and sold the books to them. That's where the pedigree name came from. But a lot of them have this W.C. Holt Jr. stamp on them. It's not all of them, but a lot of them do have that. And for me, I just love the name. I love the Cosmic Airplane name. I like the story behind it. That's one of the, for me, the important things with the pedigree is like the history that goes with it. Whether it's sometimes it's just somebody who's a hoarder, like the Mile High, like the Mile High pedigree. I feel like that's just like hoarder pedigree. But like the Okajima pedigree has a lot of history behind it. Then, the Cosmic Airplane pedigree at least appears to have some unique history behind it as well. But this is that just amazing LB Cole cover. You've got the skull, you've got Catman and Kitten on the cover there. Here's the back cover. This is another one that it was in a different label when I picked it up, and I really wanted it with that gold label, so I got it reholdered for that. That's one of the only reasons I've generally gotten books reholdered is to get the gold pedigree labels, because I really like them, and they especially look really nice when you have kind of like a dark cover with it. So this is number 18, Catman number 28, Cosmic Airplane pedigree. All right, so now for number 17, this is another book that I picked up very recently. Showed it on a recent unboxing video. This is another one of these extremely high-grade Golden Age books that just, I mean, they're mind-blowing when you see these things in person. This is Planet Comics number 58. And this is this Joe Doolin cover. Let's see there, Joe Doolin cover. And I've had now multiple people tell me, so it seems like that's pretty much confirmed, that this is one of the motivations for the Planet Comics number 1 that was done by Dave Stevens, as well as other, women on rocket covers, and it really looks like it. So you would think it probably was, but I didn't know for sure. There was somebody that commented in my video on it, and then I posted a picture of this one on Instagram as well, and I had multiple people make that same comment. So it does really seem like this Planet Comics 58 is that inspiration for the Dave Stevens Planet Comics #1. The other thing, this is one of the highest grade copies out there. There are, I think, a couple 9.6s. There's a Promise Collection 9.6. There's a Mile High 9.4. But when I talked about this book in my unboxing video, I honestly think this is the best looking copy. Now, I know there are some that are higher grades. You know, you've got those 9.6s out there, but in terms of color strike, I think this has the best color strike of all of them. It's amazing. There's just really dark, deep colors on this. The Planet Comics is really white and, you know, nice. And it's just such a cool cover. You've got, you know, the guy with his bones showing through his arms for whatever reason. And you've got the, you know, the rocket that the woman's riding on. So you've got kind of that good girl art element as well. And just an amazing 9.4. I mean, so yeah, this one is number 17 and just an incredible high grade copy of this classic Planet Comics book. Now, if you are interested in like sci-fi covers, good girl art type covers, the Planet Comics run, definitely worth checking out. There are a ton of great covers in it. They tend to be focused more at the beginning of the run and then the end of the run. So that's really where I would maybe, you know, put your effort if that's what you were looking for, but just an incredible run of books. Now, the next one, I was hoping it would be here by now. It is not. So I'm just going to, you know, throw a picture of it somewhere up here. This is number 16 on my list. This is 7 Seas #4. For a lot of people, this is the best Matt Baker cover out there. Me personally, I like Phantom Lady 17. That's mine. But this is probably number 2 for me. So 7 Seas #4, just an incredible, you know, it's the underwater good girl art battling the shark. I mean, just a super cool cover, great colors on this one. It is a lower grade copy. That's why I can get it. You know, so it's a lower grade copy, but an incredible presenting lower grade copy. So that was one of the things that really sold me on it. Hopefully I will have it show up soon. You know, I'll probably do an unboxing or something like that when it gets here. But, you know, at least for now, you know, up on the screen, I have 7 Seas #4, Matt Baker, one of the top tier covers that he has ever done and that he's known for. So that is number 16. Now, for number 15, the only book that I have here that's in, you know, a magazine case, and I think it could fit into a standard case. I think somebody just didn't. I don't know. I think they were just maybe lazy on it or something and thought it'd be a little easier to get it into the magazine case, so they used the magazine case. I've considered resubmitting to get it into a standard case. I haven't decided if it's worth it yet. But this is Walt Disney's Comics and Stories #1. I have always wanted a copy of this book ever since I saw it. I really like books where you have like a central image and then you have solid colors in the back. And that's one of these. Also, this is just an extremely iconic book from Walt Disney's Comics and Stories, or Walt Disney in general. If you're thinking about Disney books and maybe you aren't totally familiar with them, this one is one that you would probably still know. It also has that just a cool page turn on it that's used in a number of other titles like Batman as well. And so I really like the Donald Duck page turn. I like the red background in there, and a 4.5 is a really solid grade for it. I wish it wasn't in the magazine case. I have, like I said, considered trying to see if I could get into a standard case. It doesn't have a spine roll or anything. It's just like the pages just stick out a little bit past the cover. And so I don't know if they were just trimmed a little wider. And so it's really close to that cutoff where you're allowed to fit it into a standard case. But I measured it. I think it can make it. So I might resubmit this one at some point to just try to get it into a standard case. But Walt Disney's Comics and Stories, 4.5, just amazing cover, one that I really, really like, and a #1. You know, this is another one that I've seen a few come up over the last year or so, but generally you don't see this book come up for sale hardly ever. There was a really good opportunity for someone recently on a heritage auction. It's like a 1.0, and it was a solid presenting 1.0. I even bid on it for, you know, a couple bids. So I think that was a really nice pickup for someone, because again, it's not one you see very often, and that was actually a pretty good looking copy. All right, so now on to number 14 here. This is one that I picked up off of Instagram in the summer of this year. Picked it up over the summer. Picked this one up from Polanski. If you have never checked out his sales or anything like that on Instagram, I highly recommend it, especially if you're into Golden Age books, because he always has cool stuff. This is Underworld Crime #7. This is one of my favorite covers from the Golden Age. The way it's done is incredible. Just the lighting, the fear that was drawn into her face with this like this hot poker thing that they're potentially, going to torture her with. I'm assuming it's to try to like maybe get some information out of this guy in the back. Just the way that he drew the eyes, like this villain guy here looking back at the guy in the corner and all that. But I mean, the person who really deserves, I think, a lot of the credit for this one is the colorist. Unfortunately, it's not known. They don't know who did the cover, who did the coloring, that kind of thing. But I think this is just it's just a crazy content cover. It's one of these crime covers, but also just the quality of the art, the quality of the coloring is incredible. And so I've had a couple copies of this one. I had cut it off my keeper list when I had it's like a 3.0 or a 3.5. And then this one came up and it was a 5.5, decided to pick it up. It's also got one of those, like the CVA stickers, meaning it looks good for the grade. It is a very nice presenting copy of this book. So very happy with it. Great colors. I mean, here's the back. But yeah, really incredible book. So Underworld Crime #7. I just think it's one of the best covers from the Golden Age. And for my keeper list, that's a lot of what I've gone for. I was like, covers are what really appeal to me most of the time. I mean, there are key events and that kind of thing, but covers are one of the things that even if it's a key book, if it has a cover I don't like, it's unlikely to stay on my keeper list for long, if at all. But I really like that cover. All right. Now, got another Promise Collection book here. This is number 13 on my list. This is Batman #6 in a 6.5. This is the first appearance and death of the Clockmaker. So yeah, super important character. But the thing I really like about this one is the cover. So this is, and it's a Promise Collection book. It's got the really cool, gold pedigree label, and it is a really nice presenting copy. I mean, I know some people think like some of the Promise Collection books were overgraded. My experience with the ones I've had, they are incredible presenting books. I think this one has like some little bit of staining and that kind of thing. That's what held it back. But I mean, this is a really, really nice copy of this book. I mean, amazing cover with Batman and Robin and kind of like an action scene on the cover, swinging in, very similar to what you see with Batman #1. And for me, at least, I'm a fan of this type of cover. I'm not a big fan of the campy covers, kind of like the jokey Batman covers. I like the ones that are more action sequence. And so that's why I really like this one. I like issue 3. I like issue 1, 9, and 7. Those are the ones in that first and 4. Those are the ones that are in that first 10 issues that I really like. There are some that I don't, they don't appeal to me as much, but this one I think is a really cool one, and a 6.5, amazing grade. Plus the pedigree, those gold labels, they just make it look nice. All right. So now we actually have another Batman book here for number 12. This is also one that I picked up this year, around September, it looks like, of this year. This is Batman #16. This is actually a key issue and an awesome cover. This is the first appearance of Alfred, and it's one of these spotlight covers. Batman #9 is the first time they did the spotlight cover. This is where it was used again. This is an amazing copy. It is a 6.0, white pages. The only real thing going on with it is like there was something, maybe like a grease pencil or something that somebody tried to remove. Probably would have been better if they would have just kept it there. But regardless, I mean, this is an incredible presenting copy of this book. I think there's like a split down on the bottom of the spine, and that's why it got that 6.0. But otherwise, I mean, just an amazing presenting copy, amazing colors on this one. When you hold it up and look at it versus other copies of this book, this one's just stunning. So 6.0, Batman #16, first appearance of Alfred, and just an awesome cover. So that is number 12 on the list. So we're getting close to the top 10. Not quite there yet. I'm surprised this one isn't this one isn't in the top 10 anymore. I think it was maybe last year, because I picked up this book in May of 2022. This is number 11. This is Crime Suspense Stories, number 22, in a 5.0. This is a book I picked up raw. It is one of the most expensive books I've ever bought raw. I didn't quite get the grade I was hoping to get on it, but still, 5.0 is a nice grade for this book. This is one of those books that's just exploded. I mean, this is, you could argue it's the most recognizable pre-code horror cover, like pre-code horror golden age cover. It's done by Johnny Craig from EC. It's definitely the most expensive book in the EC run of books. The only one that would probably come close is the annual #1. That book is also very, very expensive. But I think this one at the top end would probably be higher. At the lower end, I think that one, the annual might be higher, but the top end, this one's going to be higher. But a 5.0, it's a very nice presenting 5.0. No big pieces missing or anything. It's got a really nice wrap, where you can see like crime all right there and everything, but just a crazy cover. I mean, this is one of those books that was responsible for the establishment of the Comics Code Authority, and one that I am very happy to have. I had a lower grade copy that I sold to a buddy when I got this one, and I have been unable to upgrade this. This book has gotten so expensive. It's just really, really expensive. As you get to higher and higher grades, it just jumps. And so I'm very happy with this book at this time, at least, so Crime Suspense Stories, number 22, one of the most iconic pre-code horror covers. All right, now to number 10. So now we are into the top 10 here. So number 10 here is another Promise Collection book. This is Detective Comics number 168. First appearance of the Red Hood, first origin story of the Joker. You can see it's got that Promise Collection label, and it's the gold label on, I mentioned that earlier, on dark covers, especially on the black covers, looks incredible. It makes this cover pop. Now it's a 1.8 because it's a detached cover and it has some splitting down here. It definitely hasn't been pressed. This is one I've considered that. I think it could probably get a 2, maybe even a 2.5 if it was pressed, but I haven't gone about trying to do it. It's got some like rippling and things on the bottom, and I think it could get a better grade, but this is such an incredible cover. You've got the Red Hood right on the cover, and it's an amazing presenting copy. I mean, for a 1.8, like you can see the splitting that's right here down on the bottom, but otherwise it's all there. It's complete. The back cover looks just as good. I mean, the back cover is super bright as well. Yep. Number 10, Detective Comics 168, major first appearance from Batman, first appearance of Red Hood, and origin story for the Joker. All right, now number 9. This is a book I also just recently picked up. Another amazing Alex Schomburg cover. This is Captain America Comics number 27. I think it's one of the coolest Captain America action covers that's out there. I mean, there are a few of them that are in this period of the run that are really, really great covers. 27 is one of my favorites. And so it's just got, you've got Captain America on the motorcycle, which is pretty cool. Plus you've got Bucky with the machine gun. I talk about that every time I've got a cover with Bucky with the machine gun. I think that's just one of the things that makes his covers especially cool when you've got that type of action pose. And, they're beating up Nazis. So I had somebody comment that I had talked about Cinderella Love 25 and how I didn't like that was busy, but then they're like, but you like Alex Schomburg covers that are busy. And so for me, it's that with Schomburg covers, with these war covers, these big action scenes, I want them to be busy. I want all this kind of stuff going on. I want that story that Alex Schomburg is telling on the cover. With Matt Baker, with romance books, I don't want him to be busy. Some of my favorite Bakers are where you have that kind of like central image that he's focused on, or ones where he's really kind of like telling a story on the cover. And so that's just my take. That's why I like certain things, and everybody gets like their own stuff. But yeah, with Schomburg, I like this cover to be busy. I like his war covers to be like that. And so Captain America number 27, awesome. 6.5, amazing cover. So yep, that is number 9. All right, now number 8, another Captain America cover. This one is not by Alex Schomburg. This is by Martin Nodell. This is Captain America Comics number 74. This is this short run where, as part of the Captain America Comics run, where it kind of turns into horror covers. And so this one to me it's just the best Red Skull cover that's out there. There are other great Red Skull covers, like Captain America Comics number 3 is a great Red Skull cover, but that one, Red Skull, is part of a larger story or image on the cover. This is the one where he is the central image. He is, this extremely menacing character with the long claws and everything. I mean, it looks like a horror cover. If you didn't know this was Captain America, you would see this as just a standard pre-code horror cover. But then you've also got, Cap on the cover there, like this woman on the cover, and just a really cool solid background. I like these solid backgrounds that are part of this. And yeah, here's the back cover. This is another one that I've talked with some people that it might have a chance to bump as well. Maybe it could get a 4.0, but I don't like taking that risk very often. So I haven't taken any risk here with trying to bump this up. But yeah, it's a very nice presenting 3.5. Really happy with this one. Captain America Comics, number 74. All right. Now for number 7. So this is the only Silver Age book that's on my list. It's Amazing Fantasy number 15. Now, this is a 0.5, so it's the lowest grade out there that I could get for this book, but I was very happy to be able to get it. I had always wanted one of these when I was a kid. I don't know how long this one will stay on my list, but it is on there pretty solid right now. I haven't had a lot of interest in selling it. It's one of those things, I've talked about this before. It's like, if I get the right offer, any book is potentially for sale, but this is a nice copy for a 0.5. It's got that, the chipping on the top, but it doesn't have any of the Marvel chipping on the side. It has really deep colors. And that's one of the things that you'll see with Amazing Fantasy 15. Sometimes you get some fading on Spider-Man. Sometimes the yellows get kind of really browned, but this has really bright colors. It is a nice presenting 0.5. Now it is missing a page. It's missing page 13, and there's a coupon cut out of the back cover. So you can see that here, but I'm looking at the back cover and it's already a 0.5. So the main thing, it's like it sits up on the shelf. You see an Amazing Fantasy 15, first appearance of Spider-Man, one of the most important characters in all of comics, definitely from the Silver Age. And so, yeah, I was very excited to be able to own a copy of this book. I have now owned an Amazing Spider-Man 1 and an Amazing Fantasy 15. I don't own the 1 anymore, but still own this one. One of those books I'd seen in our local comic shop, I believe, one time when I was a kid. They had one at one point. I remember seeing it like under the glass or something there, but never one of those books that you really think you're going to be holding in your hands. Amazing Fantasy 15, first appearance of Spider-Man, and a 0.5, but a very nice presenting 0.5. All right, now for number 6, another book that I picked up this year. I picked it up this summer, ended up getting it pressed and cleaned and graded. This is actually the most expensive raw book I've ever bought. So yeah, not a cheap book. First time I've spent 5 figures on a raw book, but very happy with it. This is Phantom Lady number 17. This is another one of, the Matt Baker covers. You've got the 7 Seas 4 that I showed. You got Phantom Lady 17. You've got the Cinderella Love 25. Those are some of the big, most well-known covers for Baker. And this one, it has a great color strike. It's very square. Sometimes you'll get some real wonky like twists with the cover that really show up because of the spine. It's this spine, how they did this is very similar to the problems that you see with the Marvel Comics group in the Bronze Age, where it's along the top. It really shows when something isn't square. The main detractor from this one is there were, 1 or more kids that definitely used some, pen on it. So you could either call it the tattoo variant, or the other variant I've referred to it as is the fish face variant, because that's what the that's what the kid wrote on the back in this like coupon. At least he didn't cut it out though. I don't mind nearly as much about the ink on the back. I mean, it's on the back, but definitely some younger kids had this book. So that shows you like these books were being sold to little kids. And this is the type of thing that really drove the Comics Code Authority to be established, because this really isn't a cover for little kids. This is, especially when you're talking about like, this is 1948. This is a very sexualized cover. And so that's one of the things where you can see what this content was that was out there that really ended up driving that Comics Code Authority to be established. It's one of those things you just like, I feel like when you think back about like the 50s and the 40s, you don't think of stuff like this being out there, especially being sold to kids, but it was, so Phantom Lady 17, one of the, top Matt Baker covers that's out there. Also the most expensive, what I would call non-hero cover. Some people might call Phantom Lady a hero, but I generally would classify this more as good girl art. And the 9/6 Promise Collection copy sold for, I believe it was like $450 456,000 or 464,000. I think it was 456,000. So just kind of an idea, like it's a very expensive book in any grade. And as you get to higher and higher grades, it just explodes. So really awesome book. Number 6 on my list. Yeah. And that was one I'd been trying to get a copy of that book for probably 3 years. I mean, it's one of those that ever since I started getting into Golden Age and I saw a copy of that book, I decided I was going to try to get one, and they just keep getting more and more expensive. They aren't any easier to find. They aren't any cheaper. That's how a lot of these Golden Age books are. You add just a couple more people that want them, and there's so few that it just, you add that bidding and everything gets more expensive. All right. So now we're into the top 5. So here's number 5, book I picked up this year. Actually picked it up during a live stream that I was doing with Mickey and Como. And so this is Punch Comics number 12. I talked about this one when I had the Dynamic Comics number 11, the Gus Rica cover. This is like the Gus Rica cover. This is the most well-known, in-demand Gus Rica cover that's out there. Number 2 is probably Dynamic Comics number 8. But Punch Comics number 12, you can see the Gus Rica cover, classic skull cover. And I mean, this is, when you think of a Golden Age skull cover, this is the cover. And it is not really a horror comic. It's more of a crime comic. You can see it's kind of like this crime scene on there. And this woman down in the corner there, she's the one that, she really looks like one of the people that's in the test tube on the far right. I believe she's wearing like a yellow dress in that one, but it's the very same style. You can tell it's the same cover artist that did it. But 1.5, I mean, I never thought I was going to get a copy of this. I had talked about this when I got it. I kind of soured on the book some because it just kept getting more and more expensive and just no opportunities to get them. And finally this one came up. I was able to pick it up, and so super happy with it. It's got some chips and things on the edges, but I talked about this people, and actually I feel like it looks pretty cool with them. It's like, it's a book that looks cool when it's beat up, especially if the colors look good. I mean, it's, the skull on this one is a very bright white. It's a good looking like skull on the cover. Sometimes they get some tanning in that, there's nothing that really detracts from the main image. And so that was a big selling point for me with this book. So Punch Comics number 12, 1.5, picked it up this year. Very happy with this one. Number 5 on my keeper list. But if I had to put it in order, it's probably number 2. Like in terms of my favorite books that I currently have. Probably 2 or 3. This next one is number 4, but this is actually number 1 for my favorite book that I own currently. So if I was making the list of my favorite books, this would actually be number 1, but it's number 4 in terms of the value on my list. This is Startling Comics number 49. Alex Schomburg cover. This is the Bender cover. Like this is the one that if people are talking about the Bender cover, it's like the robot cover. It is this one, Startling 49 in a 4.5. I am super happy with this one. I had a 2.5, which I was also very happy with. The opportunity came up to pick up this book, and I did. I ended up selling recently the 2.5, but yeah, still have my 4.5. Colors are great on it, and just really like no big detracting flaws on it. There's a little bit of maybe like staple rust or something like right here. But overall, a great presenting copy of this book. There's a back cover. And if you haven't watched Comic Collector Geek's channel, he did an interview with one of the founders of Bongo Comics, which is the Simpsons comics. And he asked him about if this was one of the inspirations for Bender, because that he worked with Matt Groening, and he actually confirmed it. He said, yes, Matt Groening was a big fan of this cover, and this was one of the inspirations for Bender. That was the first time I had ever heard that confirmed. So I thought that was really cool that we actually had that confirmation, because a lot of people have been saying like, oh no, it's just a coincidence, but that was the actual confirmation that we got, that this is one of the inspirations for Bender in Futurama. And one of the reasons that I love this book. I mean, it's that great Alex Schomburg airbrush cover, but that tie to that modern, Futurama show, which is one of my favorite cartoons, just big selling point for me. Plus you've got the, kind of like the good girl art, Girl in Trouble on the cover. There's just tons going for this book. So number 1 in terms of my favorite books that I own, but number 4. All right, now number 3. This is the only restored book that's on this list. It is a pretty incredible restored book. This is Detective Comics number 38. An insane 8-0. It is restored. I get it, but it is complete. It is the first appearance of Robin. It is one of the most iconic Golden Age covers for Batman because you actually have Robin right on the cover, bursting through the page, all that kind of stuff. This one is an A3. The restoration is color touch, pieces added, tear seals cleaned and reinforced. A3 means that it was done professionally and there's a moderate amount of color or a moderate amount of restoration. But yeah, front. I mean, the back is insane. I mean, it looks bright white. I mean, when they clean these books, I mean, they can make them look very nice, and that's what you see. I mean, just a beautiful back cover for this book as well. Front cover, just incredible. I had some people mention when I showed this previously that it almost looks like a reprint, and it really does. I mean, it's so incredible to see this book in this type of grade, even being restored. So, Detective Comics number 38, number 3 on my list. And first appearance of Robin in an 8-0 restored. All right, now number 2. So I picked this book up on Instagram, picked it up from Flip Mode Comics. This is actually from a collection that they recently picked up earlier this year and have been selling through. It's not a pedigree, but it has a note on the label. It's from the Bobby Blue collection. This another book that I didn't think I would own, and I had kind of soured on a little bit, but then when I got this opportunity, I had to jump at it. This is Chamber of Chills, number 19, in a 7.5. I mean, this grade is insane. And you can see here, it's got the little note there, the Bobby Blue collection. And I mean, this is just an incredible book, a beautiful book, an incredible grade. One of the things that really sold me on it was that I see the lower grades, kind of like the 2 to 3 range, sell pretty frequently, but you don't see books up like this, like the high grades like this come up for sale. And so being able to have something that separated itself a little more was one of the big things that really made me decide I wanted to pick this one up. But yeah, Chamber of Chills, number 19, 7.5. This had been the most expensive book I had ever bought until the one in the box. So yeah, I mean, there are a few reasons that this one has become so iconic. One of the reasons was that this was used on the cover of a Misfits single. You can go and search through that. You can find where this image was used. But then since then, it's just homaged all the time. Like you'll find Archie covers that homage this, where you have like Betty in the background there, Veronica in the background, that kind of thing. But it's just a very popular cover to homage. It's got that black background, which is something I love with pre-code horrors, the black backgrounds. And I generally like horror covers that don't have like the ultra violence on them. And so this one doesn't have that, extreme violence. It's more like classy horror. So like Mickey over at Swaggle House Comics has talked about, it's like, is it a book that you can put on your shelf when you have company over? This is a book I feel like you could put on your shelf when you have company over. Other ones, not so much. Like that Crime Suspense Stories 22, you're going to get some weird looks, if that one's on your shelf when company's over. But this one, pretty cool looking book. And I feel like people would ask about it, would drive conversation. But yeah, Chamber of Chills, number 19, 7.5. Bobby Blue collection. Amazing book. Now for the final one. Okay, so got this box here. This is another book that I picked up on Instagram. And so for anybody that's wondering, like people that are interested in buying comics, looking for comics, that kind of thing, Instagram is a great source. I mean, a lot of my top books I've picked up from people on Instagram. It has a surprisingly strong comic community. You probably wouldn't think that if you weren't part of it and hadn't seen it. You might think that that's not something that would be there, but there's a lot of big collectors that are on Instagram that have some really incredible books. Now this box, it felt a little light to me. So I was wondering what was going on, but it's full of peanuts. And so I'm just gonna be careful with this. I'm gonna pause for a second and then I will, so I don't get peanuts everywhere.
2,000 years later.
Okay. Took a little bit to get that out of there. There's a lot of tape, but I'm fine with that. You want this one as secure as possible. So this is the number 1 on this list. It's the most expensive book on this list. And another one that I definitely didn't see myself owning this book. it's actually like the complete opposite of the number 2 on the list. I was talking about the, that one I like the classy horror, like the one where you can put put it on your shelf. This is one of those ones you're probably not putting on your shelf when people are over. But this is Black Cat Mystery number 50 in a 9.0 and file copy. I mean, this book is like I looked at it like real quick just to kind of like inspect things real quick before I showed it here. I mean, this book is nuts. I mean, a 9.0 of Black Cat Comics number 50. Yeah, I am very, very happy to have picked up this book. I mean, and I'll show you kind of like the split of the classy golden age horror versus the just gonna get that there. Versus the the super violent, like the peak of violence golden age horror. We've got the Chamber of Chills 19 and the Black Cat 50. I mean, Black Cat 50, other than, I mean, you could argue it's more violent than Crime Suspense Stories 22. This is done by Lee Elias. He did a number of those. He did this one. He did Tomb of Terror number 15. There are multiple super violent covers that Lee Elias did. And this is, I think it's 1954. Yeah, it's 1954. It's right near the end. This is basically as they knew this Comics Code thing was coming, that this, that everything was going to be coming to a head. It's just like, it was just these competitions between these publishers where it's just more and more violent covers. And this is right near the peak. I mean, you've got this, this radium thing that this guy is holding where it's just melted off his face and his hands. And I mean, the colors on this thing are just incredible. And so when I picked it up, like I said, I bought it on Instagram, and the picture I feel like didn't really do it justice. Like it's like it had a little bit of a reflection on it, and so it looked like maybe it was a little washed out. But I went and checked the image on CGC because this one was graded relatively recently, and so I could see like how nice the colors were on this one. And I mean, yeah, just nuts. Like a 9.0 for this book is insane. I mean, there are higher grades out there. I mean, there's a 9.6 that's out there that was part of the Black Cat collection. I don't think there's a 9.8. I don't remember. There might be a 9.8, but yeah, a 9.0 file copy, Black Cat number 50, one of the most iconic horror covers from the Golden Age. I mean, I've got some pretty cool horror covers now that are part of this. I got this one, the Chamber of Chills 19, and that Crime Suspense Stories 22. Yeah, and then the Punch 12, which kind of call it horror or not, but awesome book. I am extremely happy with this. This is, like I said, this is one that I was torn on. Like a lower grade copy I wasn't as interested in, just because I don't really like the super violent covers as much. But the opportunity to get something that's this high of a grade, such an exceptional copy, I couldn't turn that down. So I was very happy I had the ability to pick it up and was able to get this book. Yeah, there's a back cover. I mean, it's just an incredible book. But this is number 1. That is the full list, 1 through 24. Wish I would have had the 7 Cs 4 here, and then I could have shown them all. But at least could show a picture of that one. And should hopefully get here. I don't know when. I haven't gotten any shipping notification yet or anything for it. So at some point in 2024, it will get there. But this is the current version of my keeper list as of the end of 2023. Each year I do something similar, whether it's the top 20 books that I have or keeper list or something like that. And I keep thinking, I'm like, there's no way I'm getting cooler books than what I have right now. I'm going to say it again. I mean, like Startling 49, Black Cat 50, Tech 38, Chamber of Chills 19, Punch 12. Like I feel like I can't upgrade them anymore, but you never know. You never know what's going to pop up out there. And so real happy with this. And that's one of the things that's fun to me with this. I like being able to show these books. I feel like it's books you probably don't see all that often. I mean, they're books I've never seen a Black Cat 50 in person until this instant. Like I had never seen one in person until this instant. And that's the same with a lot of these. Like I'll have seen them online, but until I've actually held them in my hands, I haven't seen them either. And so that's how I've talked about that with the keeper list. That's one of the ways that I know if I want to keep a book. It's when I have that book in my hands. And like if I had taken this one out and I felt it was like faded maybe or something like that, it's just where it didn't appeal to me, I might feel different about it. But this is an awesome book. This is an awesome book. I'm very happy to have it. And that's really how I've, you know, I judge a lot of these as they come in. It's, you know, how does it make me feel versus these other books? But hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you saw some cool stuff. You know, if you did, please hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell, all that kind of thing. I've got more videos over here. If you'd like to watch some of my other videos, subscription button is right here. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.